Let's go. Bismillah. Let's go a bit back. We had covered this last time, but let's revisit a bit. As we all know, Greek philosophy has been a great cultural force in the history of Islam. Yet, a careful study of the Quran and the very school of scholastic theology that arose under the inspiration of Greek thought discloses the remarkable fact that while Greek philosophy very much broadened the outlook of Muslim thinkers, it on the whole obscured the vision of the Quran. Socrates concentrated on his attention on the human world alone. To him, the proper study of man was man, and not the world of plants, insects, and stars. How unlike the spirit of the Quran, which sees the humble bee a recipient of divine inspiration and constantly calls upon the reader to observe the perpetual changes of the wind, the alternation of day and nights, the clouds, the starry heavens, and the planets swimming through infinite space. As a true disciple of Socrates, Plato despised sense perception, which in his view yielded mere opinion and no real knowledge. How unlike the Quran, which regards hearing and sight as the most valuable divine gifts, and declares them to be accountable to God for their activity in this world. This is what the early Muslim students of the Quran completely missed under the spell of classical speculation. They read Quran in the light of Greek thought. Okay, so let's go through these one by one again. This Greek thought and Greek philosophy had a great influence on certain Islamic disciplines. But I don't think there's any evidence that Greek thought was a great cultural force in the history of Islam. Unless we reduce the cultural history of Islam to few philosophical texts. Farabi and Ibn Sina, and to lesser extent Ibn Rushd. Even on Al-Kalam, the influence of philosophy is Greek philosophy is partial. Why? Because the mainstream of Islam, Al-Kalam, the rationale for it emerges from within the Islamic teachings, as we looked at last time, but also because within philosophical ilm kalam, you have Asharis and Mu'tazilas. And Asharis were only partially influenced by the methods of Greek philosophy. And their conception of rationality is very much different from Greek philosophy. As anyone who has ever looked at the debate on التحسين والتقبيح العقلي would know. Even on Mu'tazilites thought, I'm not sure I can say that was hugely influenced by Greek thought, because their main concentration was on the oneness of God, and then their main apprehension was the Christian view of God as Trinity, and they wanted to avoid interpretations in Al-Kalam which led to any doubt about the oneness of God. On the other hand, we have other streams of Ilm Kalam which are non-philosophical, or so then you have a classical Ilm Kalam of, you don't call it Ilm Kalam, but Ilm Kalam of Muhaddithin and Fuqaha, which you will find in the books of Al-Aqaid, and also in commentaries on the Quran and Hadith and other general books. And then you have an empiricist school of Ilm Kalam. It doesn't have much to do with Greek philosophy, at least not directly. That's the second thing. The third thing is, even with all this Ilm Kalam, is just a one discipline among other Islamic disciplines. And in order to substantiate the claim that Islamic scholars were reading the Quran according to the concepts derived from the Greek philosophy, which blinded them to the insights of the Quran, we would have to assume that Ilm al-Kalam firstly was heavily influenced by the Greek philosophy, which is not true on the whole. And also we would have to assume that Ilm al-Kalam has a central position in the not just central, but a dominant position in the Islamic discipline, which is not true, because Ilm al-Kalam just one discipline among other disciplines, and the commentaries of the Quran, even though it's written by mutakallimin, even though their specialization shines through their commentaries, but they are they look at the Quran from many other perspectives, from the perspective of language and the discipline, linguistic disciplines, rhetoric, and so on, and fiqh and the disciplines related to that, usul al-fiqh and disciplines related to that, hadith and disciplines related to that, usul al-hadith and disciplines related to that. Moreover, the guiding force in understanding the Quran is the language in the light of the Jahili and early Islamic poetry. So it's hard to believe that Iqbal's claim is true. Not just that the Greek philosophy had a central force in Islam, history of Islam, cultural force, but also that Muslims, that Ilm al-Kalam had any predominantly central position, specifically the philosophical Ilm al-Kalam, and thirdly, they had read Quran in the light of those, in the light of Kalam. So that's the first point. And if we look at the Muslim scholars, let's say Ghazali or Ibn Rushd or Razi, these are not specialists in the modern sense of the word. They wear different hats, so to speak. So Ghazali is a great Shafi jurist. He's a first-rate Usuli. He's a logician and a philosopher. He is a great Sufi. He is the person who knows the wisdom of or behind practices of Islam, and so on. So when he goes through the Quran, he takes all these specialization or these distinctions with him and read the Quran in the light of all these. And that's why, and that's the nature of the Quran as well, it's not one-dimensional, it is multi-dimensional, as Imam Ali said. And then the language, Arabic language, the great source of understanding Islam, which transcends anything which other languages can offer. And then we have to understand the force of Quran itself, which shows its wonders to every generation, every individual, every society in its own way. So it's very hard to imagine that Ghazali or Ibn Rushd to that extent. Ibn Rushd is also a great Maliki jurist. He's a philosopher, he's a physician. He's very much interested in astronomy. he's a great literary figure, and the same with Razi. He's usuli, he's mutakallim, and so on. And anybody can read the Tafsir al-Kabir. You will see different dimensions shining there, including tasawwuf and other things related to the emotional and spiritual side. So, and moreover, if you look at tafsirs, you will see that it's not true, the claim which is being made. So the Greek philosophy broadened Muslim view, also limited it, like anything else. But if we, use the term which French historians of science and epistemology have used, Greek philosophy didn't constitute the episteme of Muslim culture in any era. It was just one element within. And we should always remember that Greek philosophy was understood in the light of pre-existing Islamic knowledge and Arabic language, which is very different from Greek language and Latin language. So I think it's an understudied subject. People think Ibn Rushd was, and he is one of the, among Muslim scholars, someone who defended Aristotle. But we need to study how his defense itself is based on his background knowledge of Islam and Arabic language and all that, and how his Aristotle is different from the Greek Aristotle and Latin Aristotle. And when his books were translated into Latin, how much how much the substance was lost, etc. This needs to be studied. And then the claim that Greek philosophy was somehow very non-empiricist. Hated senses or sense perception. Itself a gross misreading of Greek philosophy and other schools. And also limiting Greek philosophy to three figures of Plato, Socrates, and Aristotle. And Muslims had access to other schools of Greek philosophy, including the pre-Socratics. But even if we look at Aristotle, for example, he's an empiricist par excellence. In fact, his theology emerges from his physics, because it's all the motivating force of his theology is, he's seeking the explanation for the motion or the movement. And for that he develops his theology. And in fact, Aristotle say that the science which is the nearest to theology is astronomy. And astronomy provides the link between his physics and his theology. And that's also the motion, and that's explanation of motion here. Wonder whether I need what else. So when Iqbal says that this is what the early Muslim historians of the Quran completely missed under the spell of classical speculation. They read the Quran in the light of Greek thought. Seems to me historically inaccurate statement, even conceptually inaccurate statement, which presupposes the influence of Greek thought in Islamic culture to the level which it didn't even have on specific disciplines which were actually influenced by the Greek thought, let alone other Islamic discipline as well as Islamic society as a whole, in which the Quran was central, not only as a book but as a daily practice, because the life of the Muslims is woven around it. You can't think of anything more central to the Muslim society than the Quran. Even in those societies in which, the understanding of Quran is hindered by the linguistic and other barriers. So, and we'll see what is motivating this very counterfactual and non-empirical claim and conceptually incoherent claim. I think we should stop here.